what you'll need for today's session is 2 blankets, 2 blocks, if you have them. If you haven't got blocks, we can work something out with blankets, but 2 of these little bricky kind of blocks, and a belt or a tie or something you can catch your foot with at the end, so even if it's a jumper or something, whatever you've got around if you haven't got a belt. So yeah, let's get going. We will start sitting up. We're going to do some breathing, access the 3D breath, accessing the whole of the rib cage, side to side breathing, front to back breathing, top to bottom breathing. So get yourselves comfy, seated for a breathing practice, which means you can sit on a chair, you can sit on the sofa, you can sit cross-legged. I recommend having something underneath your bum if you're cross-legged, or straddling a bolster. Straddling a bolster is quite nice because the back is really nice and comfortable. I'm going to take a couple of blocks and a blanket, I think, and sit myself up nice and tall. So let's do this. Okay, so we're going to sit up nice and tall. We want a position where you can have the natural curve in the lower back, the pubic bone can roll slightly forward so that you can feel your weight on the front edge of the sitting bones, and sitting bones are going to ground you down. Of course, you don't have to lay into the lower back, you've just got this lovely curve. From there you can lift your weight up away from the earth. Pelvis dropping down, rib cage lifting up, some space between the ribs and the hips. Lift the chest, lift the sternum, widen and broaden through the collarbones and broaden through the shoulder blades as well. Set your head on top of the pelvis, so maybe draw the throat back a little bit and lift from the crown of the head, even if that's just an imaginary lift. Just feeling like as you breathe in, you're making space and really getting some length from the pelvis to the crown of the head. And as you breathe out, you keep hold of that length and you just let the limbs go. You just release any tension from the shoulders, the arms, the knees, the ankles, the hips. So you breathe in, make space. Then you breathe out and you let go. And just do that a few times just to set your position. Don't hold a stuck position. Let your breath adjust your posture for you. Let your breath expand you, move you. Let your breath find your balance. Just think about the bones lining up in gravity, just stacking one on top of the other, so that you're using minimal effort and this breath can just expand and contract your body for you. So we're going to focus in on the rib cage area today and just try and loosen off any tight spots there. So we're going to start with this 3D breathing, which is kind of optimal breath for optimal well-being, really, just to be able to fill the capacity of the lungs really well. And we'll start focusing on front to back breathing, which means when you breathe in, I want you to imagine there's a point right in the center of the lungs that you're breathing from. And when you breathe in, I want you to imagine or feel the sternum moving forward and the space between the shoulder blades moving back like a shark's fin, pressing back towards the wall behind you. So that kind of front to back expansion. Then when you breathe out, just feel your energy traveling back to that spot right in the center of the rib cage, of the lungs, of the heart. So just try that. Breathing in, front to back expansion. And you don't have to do a deep breath, you don't have to change the breath. You're changing the awareness of the breath. So you're just watching, and you can try and manipulate it a little bit to try and get that sensation of front to back breathing. But chances are it's happening and you're just going to kind of jump on that wave that's happening. You might accentuate that. Depends on how you feel. If you feel totally calm, and this isn't making you agitated, then you can exaggerate that. Really press the chest forward, press that shark's fin back. And as you breathe out, you can try and really slow the breath down and come back to that still point really, really slowly. You can even add ujjayi breathing, which means you're just blocking the throat just a tiny bit, maybe just on the out breath if you don't want to do it on the in breath, just to slow that out breath down. And what that will do is actually just kind of make the muscles inside of the lungs work, inside of the rib cage, work that little bit harder to slow all of that down. And now let's do side side breathing. So this time as you breathe in, you go from that point right at the center of the rib cage, and you imagine that the lungs are pressing out to the side. You can feel the rib cage kind of widening, and also you can start to feel that the ribs are moving towards the upper arms as you breathe in. And as you breathe out, just again, very slowly, super slowly coming back to that still point right at the center of the rib cage. So side to side breathing now. And obviously the other stuff is happening too, but this is just the wave we're riding on. The sensation we are bringing to awareness is this expansion, this lateral expansion, the widening. And again, we're trying to slowly, as we breathe out, find that point right in the center of the rib cage. And this could be what you can think of as a heart space, or it could be just physical, the space right at the center of the rib cage. And you're going out and back in from there. Maybe the breath slowing down all by itself, maybe not, doesn't matter. Just notice, just keep going if it feels okay. And then finally, let's do top to bottom breathing. So as we breathe in, naturally the sternum rises slightly, the collarbones separate and kind of curl back. And then also as we breathe in, the diaphragm presses down, even the pelvic floor presses down. The abdominal organs get a nice massage, and as you breathe out, the diaphragm comes back up, the pelvic floor comes back up, and the collarbones sink back down. So this is a good way of kind of feeling into that sensation of top to bottom breathing. So as you breathe in, it's like your lungs expand up to the top and down way to the bottom. And as you breathe out, again, slowly, 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 you're coming back to that little point right at the center of the rib cage. And if you've been doing your dry on the out breath, you might want to try adding it on the in breath now, if that doesn't alter things too much or cause too many problems, too many things to think about. And then let's try all three at the same time. So when you breathe in, front to back, side to side, and top to bottom, all at the same time. And as you breathe out, all of those coming back to the center point. Just try that. You might have to tell yourself front to back, side to side, top to bottom, or it might now come naturally as if really there isn't any front to back, side to side, top to bottom. There's just expansion in all directions. And then really lingering, if you can, with your out breath to move towards that still point, that little tiny point right at the center as you breathe out. Lovely. Okay, drop your head down. Just stretch out the muscles in the back of the neck a moment. You can rock your head from side to side a little bit. Just ease out any tension in the neck. And you can keep your breath nice and long. If you've noticed that it's become slower and longer, you can try and keep hold of that for the whole of the practice. There'll be times when you're breathing faster, but anytime you catch yourself, see if you can come back to this space and time that you can create in the lungs. And then center the head. Let's take our arms up to the sky. And let's interlink the fingers, press the palms up to the sky, and inhale as you reach up and try and separate the rib cage, the ribs on either side. So I'm just making movements with really the rib cage rather than a big side bend. I'm just kind of moving my ribs from side to side. Just try to open those side ribs. Breathe in breathe out. And you might notice that one side's tighter than the other, and that's fine. Bring the hands down, interlink the fingers in the other way, the uncomfortable way. Come up again, breathe in as you come up. And then breathing nice and deeply as you play. And again, I'm not going for side stretch at the moment. I'm trying to move the rib cage from side to side in the hope that I can just get a little bit of space between those side ribs. Okay, and then release the shoulders, release the arms. Make some shoulder rolls. And then let's come up again. Take hold of the left wrist with the right hand, and I'm not mirroring you, sorry about that. Inhale, stretch up, and as you exhale, reach over to the right and drop your right ear onto your right upper arm. And now you are feeling side stretch. Keep the pelvis rounded. You don't have to go very far. But now you're getting a stretch even in the waist, from the hip to the rib cage to the armpit, maybe even upper arm a little bit, getting a nice stretch, that whole side line. We get so tight in the side body. Okay, come back up, inhale, both sets of fingers up. Go to the other side, reach and stretch first. Come over, drop the lower ear to the lower arm. And just, you don't have to go very far because you don't want to tip. You're going to stay really balanced, and you're just going to feel space, and you're going to breathe into space. Breathe into the space between the hip and the ribs. Into the ribs, into the upper arm and armpits. And then stretch up, inhale and exhale, drop the arms. Lovely. Okay, let's have the hands on the shoulders. A few shoulder rolls. Just moving elbows in circles, very simple shoulder rolls. Just do what feels good, just make some space here. I'm moving my elbows to just again feeling that we're really about getting that feeling inside the rib cage. What's going on inside the rib cage. And then if you can, bring the elbows up to the level of the shoulders and hands still on the shoulders, and we're just going to turn the rib cage from side to side, not into a massive twist, but just a little bit. One elbow pulls back as the other elbow moves forward, but really the twist is coming from, you can imagine the whole of the rib cage just twisting side to side. Just a little bit, not massive movements. We're just kind of undoing some of the tightness in the vertebrae. You can breathe naturally, normally. I quite like this, my lungs start making noises of their own when I do this. And then release. Just notice what you've done so far. It's good to check in from time to time, see if what you're doing is working. Very nice. Let's lift our arms up again, and we'll twist to the right, and then we'll drop our hands down. One hand's going to go to the back of you, one hand's going to go to the front, more or less twisting over. So I'm working towards that opposite leg. And then I'm going to inhale, I'm going to lengthen, come back to the front. I'm going to exhale and twist again. I'm not yanking myself, I'm not using my hands to yank. I'm just thinking about now as if I want to kind of loosen the attachments from the pelvis to the ribs, so I can just make some space for the ribs to kind of be a bit more free. Inhale, come up. Exhale to the other side. The head just kind of follows the chest. It's not a whole spinal twist where we're going from the lower back all the way to the upper back. It's really just loosening up. If you think about below the rib cage, just making some space here in crisscross ways. Inhale and exhale last time. As we stay here and we breathe, we can feel the breath kind of moving into those tight fibers that crisscross that keep us all together, and we're just making some space there. We don't want to undo ourselves. We just want to feed these special fibers that really give us our core, give us our stability. We're just feeding and nourishing them. And then inhale, stretch up, and exhale, bring the hands down. Okay, so coming off whatever you're sitting on, and we're going to try and take this S shape. So it's not really an S shape at all. I don't know why it's called an S shape, but I was in my crossed legs and I've just taken one foot out. So as if you were doing your meditation, you've got pins and needles, you want to stay nice and upright, you've just taken one foot out. And you can lean to the side of the knee that is bent. The foot that's coming out is towards the back of the mat, and the hand is leaning to the front of the mat. And I'm just going to take my arm up and over. I can bend my arm and come down onto the elbow. And I'm going to inhale and stretch up, coming onto the fingertips, and exhale, I'm going to reach over. Inhale and exhale. I can let my bottom ear fall down. I still kind of keep my head facing my same direction as my chest. And I can hang here for a little bit. Make sure that bottom shoulder is rolling back and down, not forward. Keeping that arm bone tucking into its socket nicely. Just again making space in that whole left side. And then come back up so that you're on your fingertips, other hands up, and we're going to keep that shoulder back and tucked into the socket. And we're going to inhale and just roll the top shoulder, chest back and sternum towards the ceiling. And we're going to exhale and we're going to kind of thread the hand through towards the back side of the mat. And then inhale, keep that bottom shoulder tucked in, so you don't want to kind of lean forward and open more. Just open as much as you open, and then exhale, coming through. One more time, inhale and exhale. Very nice, and then come back up and bring your hands to the back of the mat and change to the other side. So I'm going to bring my hand to the floor. I'm going to take the top hand over. I'm going to sink to my forearm, and I'm going to inhale and I'm going to exhale. I can drop my bottom ear. I'm going to inhale and exhale as I just allow fibers to get used to it before we stay and hold. And then I'm going to stay and hold. I'm going to make sure my bottom shoulder is back and down. I'm going to drop my head and I'm going to just sink my hand over my head. Take some breaths. And then I'm going to come back up and then I'm going to open. So I'm going to keep this bottom shoulder back and tucked into its socket. I'm going to open, lift the sternum towards the ceiling, take the arm back, open the pec, and then I'm going to thread through, dropping the sternum towards the floor, twisting the ribs back to the floor, and then inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. And then I'm going to come up. And then I'm going to come onto all fours. So I'm going to take a blanket under my knees. We are going to be coming onto our knees sometimes. So if you've got a hard floor or delicate knees, you might want to have a blanket under. And we'll start with some cat and cow just to loosen the spine after all that sitting. So as I exhale, I'm going to press into the earth with my hands and my feet and my shins, and I'm going to move the pubic bone in towards my rib cage, pull up the lower abdomen, pressing the lower back up to the sky, pull in my chest, opening the shoulder blades behind me. And as I inhale, I'm going to soften all that. Let the belly draw to the floor, squeeze the shoulder blades, look forward and lift the sitting bones up behind me. And you can float through a few rounds of that. And maybe today's focus is more about what's going on in the ribcage area. So I'd want to kind of really feel the shoulder blades squeezing towards each other as I inhale and moving, sliding over towards the rib to the armpits as I exhale. Thinking about and the opening and closing of the rib. And then come back to but we're going to, as we exhale and curl the spine, bring the left knee in towards the nose and keep the heel in tucked towards the bottom. And as you inhale and squeeze the shoulder blades towards each other, take the knee up behind you. Exhale, curl the spine, angry cat, knee to nose. Inhale, keep the heel where it is and the toe pointed. So you're just literally just adding it on with the leg. And then we can stay there with the leg up behind you. Now, option here too, I've got my left leg up. So I'm going to press my left hand into the floor and see if I can take my right hand back. And if that's working, I might be able to take hold of the foot. And if that's working, I might be able to push the foot into the hand and lift the hand and foot up. But anywhere is fine. Maybe you're just kind of hovering the hand just above the floor in case you're going to fall. Now, when you let go of the foot, keep the foot where it is, bring the hand back to the floor and go back to that angry cat, nose to knee. And then replace the knee on the floor. I'm going to do all of that on the other side. So inhale, and as you exhale, press the floor away from you with the hands, curl the spine, knee to nose. Inhale, keeping the heel in towards the bottom, knee lifting up behind you. Exhale, knee to nose. Inhale, so you're doing the same shape with the spine. Exhale, knee to nose. Inhale, now we can stay there. I've got my right knee up, so I'm going to press my right hand into the floor. And that's where my balance comes from. I can take my left hand back, maybe take hold of the foot, maybe even push the foot into the hand, and that will let me lift. I'll press the floor away from me with the hands, nose to knee, and then back to hands and knees. Oh my God, it's getting really hot here. I hope you're okay. I'm just going to do a couple of rounds of cat and cow just to neutralize all this hair today. Should have put a hairband in. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm going to take my right foot and I'm going to take it off the mat on the right. Okay, so the foot's going to be like, this is like a kickstand, so I can take my left foot back and I can lift my left hand up. So I'm kind of like in a side plank. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is go to kind of a half moon where I lift that back leg. So I'm in a half moon. What I'm going to do is turn the palm of my hand towards my ear, drop the foot to the floor as I stretch the fingertips down towards the floor. And that will be an inhale, and as I exhale, I'm going to lift the hand and lift the leg. Inhale as I stretch and make space. Exhale as I lift. And if I think about that line, the whole of the line on the left side, I'm lengthening it and I'm shortening it. Whoops, I nearly fell over then. Lengthen it. Keep some weight on the back foot so you don't fall. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to think about this back foot. I'm going to bend my knee and I'm going to bring weight onto this knee so that I can come up and do a side angle on the opposite side. So I hope you were able to see that. So I've got my weight on that right leg. My left leg is bent, toes are pointing towards the back of my mat, and I'm stretching the opposite side. And I'm going to come back to that side angle. Then I'm going to come back to hands and knees, and I'm going to do all of that on the other side. But first, I'm going to exhale into my angry cat. Inhale, cow or upward cat. And then I'm going to take my left foot off the mat to the floor, step my right leg back, press my left hand into the floor, come up into my side plank. Then I'm going to lift that leg up, half moon. And then I'm going to inhale as I drop the foot and drop the hand towards the floor. And I'm going to exhale as I lift the hand and lift the leg. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Good. And then I'm going to drop that back foot. I'm going to bend the knee so I can bring the weight onto the left leg. Turn the right toes down to the back of the mat. Bring my right forearm on my right thigh and move into side angle on the other side. So it just gives the other side a little stretch. Then I'm going to come down dog. So you can do down dog, or you might prefer to stay low and stretch out here. You might take a version of downward puppy. If you're up for the down dog, then lift the knees, move the hips back, press the hands down and forward into the mat. You can keep the heels lifted and the knees bent. And take some deep breaths. And see if you can come back to the 3D breathing, or at least the sensations of where the breath is. Front to back, side to side, and top to bottom breathing. Seeing if there's one bit that's lacking and seeing if you can fill it. And then step halfway forward, so just in front of your blanket if you were using one. Feet under the hips, maybe a little bit pigeon-toed. So, and then I'm going to do a forward bend. I could use my bricks here if the floor's too far away. First of all, I want to make it less about the legs and lower back and more about the upper back and chest. So I'm going to have soft legs, and I'm going to first of all go into this kind of folding, and I'm going to breathe into the back of the lungs. So as I breathe in and out, I'm going to really contact that space, again my shark's fin, and expand there. And then I'm going to kind of come to a halfway lift. So I'm going to slide my hands up to my thighs, lifting my chest, maybe even straightening my legs. I'm going to pull the shoulders away from the ears. I'm going to keep my throat back, but lift my chest. I'm going to have a breath here into the front of the lungs. And then I'm going to do both of those again. So folding, breathing into the back of the lungs. And then halfway lift, breathing into the front of the lungs. And then I'm going to drop my bottom, bring my weight onto my heels, take my arms behind me, and I'm going to come up through chair pose as if I'm going to let the rib cage lift me up. I'm going to lift up, press on my heels, and feel the whole rib cage lifting up. And I'm going to take hold of my left wrist with my right hand, and I'm going to reach over to the right. Again, I'm going to drop my right ear onto my right arm. I'm going to have a breath here into the left ribs. And then I'm going to stretch up again, and I'm going to go to the other side. So I'm taking hold of my right wrist with my left hand. I'm dropping my left ear onto my left upper arm, and I'm going to breathe into my right ribs. Very nice. I'm going to reach up, and now I'm going to swan dive down. So I can have a little bend in my knees, but I'm going to open my arms as if I am taking flight. Wide rib cage, sending the chest forward, the bottom back, and then softening my knees probably about halfway, if not before, and coming back down. And then I'm going to halfway lift. I'm going to exhale and fold. And I'm going to step back into plank. And I've just got my shoulders above my wrist. My thighs are really tight. I'm going to pull my lower ribs in. I'm going to pull my lower abdomen in. I'm going to press hard on my hands and feel the strength. And then I'm going to drop my knees, and I'm going to lower myself to the floor. Bring the forehead onto the floor. Take a breath in, and as you exhale, just bring your bottom to your heel, slide your hands and come up. Very nice. So we're going to take a blanket. Oh my God, I'm so hot. So I've got this blanket folded in four, so it's like this kind of rectangle, and the long side I'm going to roll, and I'm not place this at the top of my mat, and it's going to go under my rib cage. I'm going to keep this for my knees because I love it, and I'm going to come back down, and really this is not supporting me at all. It's just touching, my ribs are touching it, so it doesn't need to lift you up. I'm just going to come into Sphinx pose. Now, if you prefer, with this blanket that's under your knees, if you have very, very kind of wide open lower back, you might want to put this under your hips, because then it will just naturally give your lower back a break. So that's nice too. So my elbows are under my shoulders, my forearms are parallel. I'm going to press the thumb and the first finger down, and I'm going to press everything down as if it's one unit. Elbows, forearms, wrists, and palm, pressing down to lift me up. Once I've pressed down to lift me up, I'm going to keep that. I'm going to try and externally rotate my arms, even though I can't. I'm going to just try and move the tops of the shoulders back, just energetically, as if I'm trying to draw my shoulder blades towards each other and draw my sternum forward a little bit. I'm going to keep my neck long, so everything's just happening at the shoulder blade level. Maybe I'm not even touching that roll now. Or maybe you want to try putting a thicker blanket on and see how it feels when you've got that contact. I can feel my belly breathing into the floor. And my arms are strong. I keep pressing down to get that lift. And my shoulder blades, imagine my shoulder blades are like triangles turned upside down. So the point of the triangle is down at kind of the bra strap level, if you know where that is, kind of below the armpit area. And the little bottom tip of the shoulder blade is just inching forward, just flicking forward a little bit and enabling my sternum to move forward as well. Okay, so we're going to take the elbows wide. We're going to just roll over that bolster, that blanket, and then bring the forehead to the floor. So blanket roll is under my ribs. Forehead's on the floor. And you can wiggle the bottom side to side. You can take the legs wide. You can even take the heels out and the toes in. Just rest. Oh, this little support on the lower ribs, just helping you to open out the back of the ribs a little bit as you rest and make the opposite shape. And then bring the hands under the shoulders. You can bring them onto that roll, press down on the roll, and come back towards child's pose. So I'm going to bring my toes towards each other. My knees are going to be a little bit further apart. I can always inch them. So I've got room for my belly to hang through my thighs. Bring my forehead to the blanket, if I've got a blanket there. I'm going to keep my left hand where it is, but I'm going to bring it more to the center, lift my chest, and I'm going to feed my right hand through to thread the needle. So I'm just right palm turned up, right shoulder towards the floor, right ear on the blanket, left hand on the roll. Taking a breath. I mean, how many ways can we open this rib cage? There's so many. Come back, do the other side. So much hair. This was a mistake. Whew. Breathing deeply. Is England still having a heat wave? I'll be giving it to us now. Very nice. Then coming back up. And what you're going to do now, you can just walk your hands up. We're going to turn so that that roll is going to be underneath the upper shoulder. So I'm going to turn around. I can keep this blanket here. I'm going to bring that roll so that it's underneath the bottom tips of the shoulders. And my head's going to come onto the floor. And I'm going to take a cactus with my arms or just stretch my arms out. And I can probably stretch my legs out on the floor if it's not too much. Or you can kind of take this constructive rest where the inner knees touch and the feet are out a little bit. Now, if I've got the blanket too far down, it's going to hit my lower back. And if I've got it too high up, then my neck's going to be a bit crunchy. There's some space between the armpit and the roll. Not much, but there is some space. And it's just that the bottom tip of my shoulder blades is resting on the blanket roll and just allowing me a little bit of lift in the sternum. So my neck is nice and relaxed, C7's off the floor. If I feel behind me, there's none of my cervical vertebrae on the floor, I can rest. You can let your arms relax. If you're trying to do cactus and your hands don't touch the floor, you can always put the backs of the hands on blocks, or, as I said, take them out to the sides. It's just giving this lovely opening on the top of the chest. So think about those pec muscles in the chest that get so tight when we're in our kind of slouching position at our computers. Then those muscles are kind of constantly firing, so they get shorter and they get really tight. This affects how we breathe, and it affects our capacity to open to the world as well. Heart chakra enabling us to really find compassion for the self, compassion for others, hold space for ourselves, hold space for others. And it could be fierce compassion. You can love someone and not agree with them. You can love someone and not want to be anywhere near them. And the capacity for love is limitless. And it enables us, working in this way with the heart space, enables us to kind of break down some of those boundaries we have between ourselves and other people. We can feel more connection between people because we can realize that we're very much the same. With metta practice, you realize we're all looking to be safe, we're all looking to feel well. We all want ease in our relationships. We all want to be loved. So you can start seeing that in other people and understanding why different people make different choices. And you can still hold firm to what your heart tells you. But there's space in your heart for everyone, for all beings. So I'm going to come out of this now. I'm going to bend my legs. I'm going to bring my feet onto the floor. And I'm just going to press on my feet, shift my hips to one side. And then I'm going to roll to the opposite side. I'm going to use my hand to press myself up. And I'm just going to come up and sit comfortably, cross-legged or kneeling. Just a moment, just being upright. Maybe checking in. How are you now? How are your ribs? How are your lungs? And now I'm going to turn this the other way round. So nice, still a very subtle roll. It's now vertical. And I'm going to bring this, my lower ribs are going to catch this. And I'm going to rest my head on it. So now like the whole of the spine is just lifting up. I'm going to work on, again, I'm going to spend some time with my arms overhead. You can have them up, you can have them kind of diagonally, you can have them cactus, but they're kind of up. So what we're working on here is a very gentle stretch to the major pec muscles, and we'll stay here just a minute or so. Again, you can bend your knees if you want to, find constructive rest, or you can stretch your legs out. So this with the arms overhead. And it means that the shoulder blades can kind of sink and roll over the blanket either side. And now what we're going to do is take the arms by our sides for this one. I'm going to move that blanket out of the way so that my lower arm is resting. And now all I'm going to do is just feel the shoulder blades sinking and the shoulder heads or the tops of the arm bones just drawing back a little bit. And this is going to release pec minor. Pec minor is underneath the pec major, and this is a real postural muscle. Very difficult to stretch it, but by giving the rib cage this little lift and having the shoulders just drop, gravity can just give that muscle some space. So what you find really is when you open your rib cage, when you can breathe more fully and deeply, your whole body becomes generally healthier. Your body can find homeostasis much easier, which means you've got this capacity to reset. Your nervous system can reset, but all of the body systems can reset. It also means that your heart, literally, metaphorically, spiritually, emotionally, can become bigger. Can bring, it's like when we practice metta, we think about like you've got this garden, it's got its fence posts. Every time your heart opens a little bit, you can move your fence post a little bit wider, and a little bit wider, and a little bit wider, safely. You know, obviously we have our boundaries for a reason, safety. We don't want to take them away before we're ready. But it's amazing how physical practices can also kind of spill over into our emotional well-being too. Okay, so we're going to bend the knees, and again we're going to roll over. So I'm going to move my hips to one side and I'm going to roll to the opposite side. And I've rolled off that little roll. I'm going to press on my hand to come up. Okay. Oh, just have a little rest, see how that feels. So much spaciousness. So next what I want to do, we'll take this roll and we'll just fold it back into its little fold. We're going to take these two blocks. I'm going to have one going across the ways on its medium height. So it's going to go across because it's going to catch underneath my mid back. And the other one's going to be on its highest height, and that's going to catch my head. Catching the lower tip of my shoulder blades. Now I'm not. I'm just a little bit lower than the shoulder blades. I mean, it doesn't make a huge amount of difference, but it's just, you know, now we've released the shoulders a little bit, we can take that just underneath the bottom edge of the shoulder blades, and then the head rests on the taller one, so the neck's not strained, but we've got this, it's kind of like right at the back of the lower ribs, and here you can stay in constructive rest with your legs. And it might be that this is too high for your body, and you can always take this one onto its lower setting and this one onto its medium setting, so you bring the whole thing down. You could also, if it's okay for the lower back, you might be able to stretch your legs out. And if this is super uncomfortable for you, and you have a bolster or a couple of pillows nearby, just put them long ways on the mat, the bottom on the floor, pillows underneath the spine. Now we can really think about the diaphragm muscle underneath the rib cage all the way round. And we can to the belly. So as we breathe in, the belly naturally rises, especially when we're on our back. It expands anyway. You can feel that diaphragm just gently pulling down as the breath comes into the lungs. Obviously it's not coming into the belly, but it's changing the belly. The belly moves towards the sky and expands out to the sides as well. And you can even feel it expanding into the kind of the back of the abdomen as well, the sides and the back of the abdomen. And the heart chakra is this kind of connection between the lower physical centers of the body and the higher kind of metaphysical centers of the body. So once we can connect with the heart, we can translate what we do in our lives are doing with how we're being, what we aspire to, the very subtle energies that we're creating in our lives, and you can bring them into balance. You know, lots of people do one thing, think another, say another, but we can kind of bring them all together. The heart chakra balances our really subtle emotions with our physical, earthy, human, the messy side of us. If we can actually open the heart a bit, we've got space for our mistakes. We've got space for our changing ideas. We've got space for our past selves that we may not, we may want to keep in the shadow and we're embarrassed of. We've got space to integrate it all. Know that it's all a journey. So I'm going to come out of this now. I'm going to bend my knees. I'm just not going to shift my hips because I don't want to lift my hips up. This could be unstable. So I'm just going to very kind of, as easily as possible, although it might be awkward, I'm going to roll to the side. And then I'm just going to let myself flop down. This top block I can find as a pillow. And the other block's just by my side. And now as I lie on my side and breathe, I'm really aware that my back body is quite open after that. So now I'm going to come flat to the floor. I'm going to remove all of my stuff. I'm going to take away the blankets and I'm going to roll onto my back. I'm going to have my belt or tie or long jumper. You can use the sleeves of a jumper if you want to ruin the jumper. Lie on the back with the knees bent. And just let that back be flat for a minute. I'm going to take my knees together and my feet wide. So I can really feel the sacrum spread out, the pelvis spread out. And I'm feeling the rib cage again, my heart space, that little spot in the center of the rib cage. And I'm going to imagine that that's my heart space. And this is the space we expanded out from in all those things at the beginning. And then we stretched all of the made space. I want us to just briefly come back to the concept of the heart space, more energetically, more metaphorically. So as you breathe here in and out, you can really feel that kind of 3D expansion, those like kind of tensegrity toys that you see that are kind of expanding and contracting. And every time you come back to this still point in the center, I want you to imagine that you're coming back to a very, very deep, sacred space. Right in the core of you, the core of your very being. This is your sacred, your inner sanctum, the most sacred part of your life, your world, your heart, your soul. I want you to feel that you've got access to this space now. If it's comfortable, you can go to that space. And you can practice giving and receiving in that space. So you can offer a prayer, you can offer some gratitude. In your most deepest inner sanctum. You can imagine you're in your own temple if you want. Whatever makes it easier to connect to this concept. Offering a prayer, offering some gratitude, just giving something. Prayer for a friend, a positive thought, an affirmation, a gift. And then just taking a moment to receive any blessing or message or intuitive thought or image that may be there waiting for you. And if you struggle with that, or this is a pressure, it's like, why am I thinking of something? Oh my God, what's wrong with me? Where's my intuition? You can simply set an intention to be open to these messages, should they wish to come, even beyond this practice, for the rest of the day, for the rest of the month. I'll be open to listening, to coming back here, takes a simple breathing practice to get me back here. I can come again, don't worry. And then bring the feet back so they're parallel with the hips, knees separate so they're parallel with the hips. And keep the left leg on the floor, squeeze the right knee into the chest, and just take your fingertips over the shin, just give it a squeeze. Flatten out that right side onto the mat. And then take the belt over the ball of the foot. And as you loosen the slack of the belt, press the ball of the foot into the belt, lift the foot up to the sky. Press the ball into the belt, pull the belt with the hands, drawing the thigh bone and deep down to the core of the earth. It's not really taking the foot over, it's just grounding. Then take the belt into the right hand, turn the foot and the leg so that you're externally rotating, and draw the foot just a touch, or as much as you want, diagonally off to the right. Then bring it back, turn it forwards again, bend the knee, release the belt. Hug once again. Bring the right foot on the floor, bring the left knee in, hug, flatten out that left side. Bring the belt over the ball of the left foot, press the ball up to the sky as you slacken off the belt. Press the ball of the foot into the belt, pull the belt with the hands, release the shoulders. Feel like you're not going for hamstring stretch, you're just going for this drawing down of the femur bone. And then take the belt into the left hand, externally rotate the left foot and draw the left foot diagonally away from you, just a touch. Bring it back. Turn it to the front, bend the knee, squeeze and hug. Then cross that left foot over the right knee like a figure four, and just start to roll from side to side on that right foot. I'm kind of rolling to the outside edge of the foot, and then I'm rolling to the inside edge of the foot. So the left knee is coming down towards the floor, the left foot's coming down towards the edge to the floor. They don't have to touch the floor, it's just, you know. You can move the left knee away from your body, and that will give you a bit more opening in the front of the hip. You can even press it away, but you want to let it be free. Okay, left foot on the floor, right ankle over left knee, and then I'm just twisting. Okay. So finish off you feel unwound. I hope if you got to go to work today, you're going to feel unwound and relaxed, but also quite alert, quite centered. So bring that right foot down, find your Shavasana, whatever shape it takes, however you like to do it, wriggling the shoulder blades down, making space in your body. You can use bolsters, blankets, eye bags. Just spending some time just letting the back body sink into the earth. And every time you breathe out, just imagine that you're getting a little bit heavier and that the contact points between the back of the body and the floor are just kind of spreading out or sinking down. You can imagine that you're piece of butter melting in the sun. That's kind of how I feel actually today. So as you melt, you spread out, you take up more space. You become more connected to the earth because there's more contact between your being and the earth. And I always like to think when we're doing this in a class where there's lots of us, we just all kind of start spreading out on the floor and merging with each other's energy. All the pieces of me merging with pieces of you. And I'm sure we can do this through the ether, through the Facebook Live, spreading out with each other, whoever's watching this, whenever they're watching it. We're all just melting into each other for a moment. Into the whole. And all our little pieces of our identity floating away. Our bones drifting away. Muscles releasing their tight attachment on the bones. Letting go. Gathering ourselves back up. So this time working with the inhalation. Starting to bring back your form. Bring back your shape. Bring back the pieces of your identity. Bring back all the things that make you uniquely you. Bring back the separation, but know that it's just an illusion. It's just an idea. We're not as different as we think. And I wish you a really well onward journey in your day-to-day, and feel that you can rest as much as you can. But if you do have to get up and go to work, I hope that you feel truly energized, truly open, truly free. Whatever happens today, you can come back to this still point and open your heart and allow it to swallow it all in. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day. I'll see you on Sunday.